can broadcast for up to 8 hours.
Oh,
Oh, that's
nice.
terrible. Holy cow. That
8 hours.
8 hours. I mean, maybe after Star Wars comes out, I can talk about Star Wars for 8 hours.
No, you know what? I think we could probably pull 8 hours just on James Bond movies alone.
Okay, if we went through like all James Bond movies.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Man, I could give you about 2 hours just on Spectre.
Yep. Which
I have no idea where this hate is coming from. I've been reading nothing but hate from people.
really?
And I'm thinking, did we see the same movie? Like, I don't understand this.
Well, we'll do a more in-depth
Right.
talk about Spectre in the second half of the show. But I mean, I think that there are a lot of the homage pieces that go over people's heads, and
Right.
two, it's not as good as Skyfall and Casino Royale, but it's still really good. People, I don't know.
I would say it's on par with Casino Royale. I really do think that. But we'll get into that in the second half.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think people just were, I don't know, people were expecting amazingness, and they got pretty good.
They got pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But anything after Skyfall was going to be a bit of a letdown. And I'm not saying I was let down, but if I had to compare, yeah, Skyfall was better. But we're talking about, comparing Empire Strikes Back with anything else. I mean,
With Return of the Jedi.
Right. And Return of the Jedi was good, but it wasn't Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people are just stupid. Anyway.
Yeah. But talking about follow-ups to things that did not disappoint. Oh, my gosh. The Zygon inversion yesterday. So, first of all, this was a first for me. I'm on the road. I'm traveling. I'm currently in a hotel room in beautiful Athens, Ohio. And my hotel last night had BBC America. So I actually tuned in and watched it live instead of my normal thing, which is watching it online the next day. So that was new and different to like actually have to sit and wait through commercials. That's terrible. I really hope everyone out there is DVRing this and seeing that, because it was awful. I'm like, no.
You're like the doctor is like, is this the way you experience time? You actually have to watch commercials.
And I have to, and since I'm in a hotel room, I don't have a DVR. I can't skip over them. There's nothing I can do. So yeah, lucky British people, lucky people with DVR, lucky people watching it on some sort of streaming or whatever afterwards, who don't have to deal with stupid commercials. But oh man, what a great episode. I mean, we were on the edge of our seats from last week as it was, but this really went above and beyond even my expectations. First of all, let's talk about all of the things that we got right. You called it, I think last week when you said Clara wasn't dead. They had to keep her alive somewhere so that there's so hats off to
Psychic
you.
connection.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. You totally got that one right. And then I got the it turns the Zygons into humans, or no, sorry, it makes the Zygons unable to change form. That was
right, but I did say it was Schrodinger's box.
Yeah,
which it was.
That's right, and you were even more correct in that it was a paradox, a pair of boxes and a paradox.
Right.
It was so cool because it's like the crazy things that we said, wouldn't it be cool if, and then they did something that was very much like that. I mean, I felt very happy with that. It didn't feel like a letdown, like they just gave us something that was like out of left field and didn't like didn't actually satisfy anything. Like it kind of did where Osgood asks the doctor what his name is, and he says Basil, and then
Basil.
like he's obviously joking. His name isn't Basil, and I'm like, wait a minute, did he just say what his name was? And like, oh, like, oh, okay, he's lying. Never mind.
Yeah, it's so not Basil.
Basil Pundington or something. What was
Basil Expedition.
uh, he is also the disco doctor again this episode.
Yeah, what's with the disco?
John Disco, is that his name?
He said Dr. Disco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of his, isn't that one of his aliases that he's like,
I don't know why he's so obsessed with that one.
I don't know, because he's Capaldi and they've got that whole crazy music thing going, and he's got.
And I love how Osgood basically made fun of his Sonic sunglasses.
Oh, she made fun of them, and then she put them on, and she was like, "Oh wow, cool." And then he's like, "Don't look at the browser history."
I told you not to look.
Now that makes me think, oh, that is actually kind of cool, where he's made himself like a little heads-up display or something in that. I mean, I'd kind of thought of that, but I hadn't ever, like, since we don't see any of that and we don't see any of it.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we all thought it was stupid, all of us, and we all complained about it. But it's sort of like Boba Fett's helmet. Like, he's got a visor that allows him to see the 360 view of his surroundings, and it scans and it does all this. But we think it's cool because it's Boba Fett's helmet. But in comparison, these are just Ray-Bans, but they do the exact same thing, I think, we're assuming, because Osgood was blown away. So at first, it's kind of funny how at first, like, we're like, oh, this is so stupid, and like, get rid of them already. But then we start thinking about it, like, well, you know what? It could probably be really cool and super useful. And by the time we're already accepting it, Moffat's just going to take it away from us.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was kind of cool. I like how she dogged him for it, and then she put them on, and she's like, oh, okay, I guess I get it.
Well, I mean, for the one thing that the sonic screwdriver is normally used for, which is like pointed at things and make them open or whatever, it's like doing this with your glasses isn't really. I'm touching the bridge on my nose and I'm making it shoot little sonics like that. That is not useful.
Right, it kind of looks dumb, but I mean, if you think about the possibilities, it's kind of cool.
Yes, but the whole idea of having wearable tech, like, yes, give me a Google interface, give me Google Glass. Like, I would love that. I wish I could have afforded to try Google Glass. Like, that would have been great.
It just looked ridiculous.
It did look kind of ridiculous, but if I could just get them in my normal glasses, yeah, that would totally be cool. I never have to look at my phone. It'd just be like, boop.
I'd like to have it in contacts. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, well, that's where they're eventually going. So, did you see LG has like this cool new bendable?
Yes, I posted that on Facebook, dude. I am going to spend all my money on that because that is so cool.
Yeah, so like bendable screen, like thinner than a credit card, that you get a full 1080 resolution on. That's ridiculous. Like, yeah, totally. As soon as they figure out how to make that translucent, and then they put it in your eyeball with a little transmitter, and you're gonna have interactive contacts.
Yeah, yeah. Then it's gonna be like the world of WALL-E, where we're not even gonna have to associate with each other anymore. I'm just gonna be happy with my tech.
Good. I'm sick of all you people. You're terrible. I just want to sit on my lounge chair and have my food delivered to me in a cup.
Slurpee.
Yep. Yeah. That's totally where we're going. We're the WALL-E future. It's terrible. But back to Doctor Who.
Because that's what the show's about.
Oh my gosh. And so much more that we haven't even begun to talk about here. How do we unravel this?
Themes. Let's go with themes. One of the prevailing themes from last week was the association with terrorism.
Yeah.
And this was such a grown-up way of telling the world there's a solution if y'all will stop acting like freaking children. Because basically that's what war is. When the doctor, and I told you before we started the show that I think that if anybody still had reservations about Peter Capaldi, that one scene where we're at the basement or at the black whatever room
The
with
Black
the
Archive, yeah.
with the Osgood boxes, that scene that Peter Capaldi played perfectly. If you had any doubts of him as a doctor, they went away. And if you still have doubts, you're just not listening. You're being obstinate because he was so good, so fantastic. And that whole speech is basically telling the world, you guys are fighting over nothing and you're screaming over each other, where a solution can be found if you just shut up, talk, and forgive each other. That's all it takes, man.
And if you're willing to be the first person to walk away,
right, right.
that's what.
And it shouldn't be a game of, well, let's see who blinks first. Why do we constantly let that happen? It's stupid. And he was telling Bonnie, the Zygon Bonnie, he was like, you're angry and you think you're justified doing what you're doing because that group of people created the circumstances to give you the right to do what you're doing now, yet you're creating those exact same circumstances for somebody else to do that to you. It's a vicious circle, and it keeps going, it keeps going. And if you don't break this circle, I mean, we're just headed for lots of violence and death. And this is exactly what is happening in the Middle East. It's this stupid little circle of, well, this person started it, or this person made it worse, or this person has to pay back what happened 100 years ago. It's stupid. And it's about time people just sit down in a stupid room and say, we forgive each other. Let's talk about how we're going to make this right.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that no one's ever going to do that. That's the cynic in me. It's just never going to happen because it's part of the human condition to act like freaking children. And, what's mine is mine and I want it back. And it's so frustrating. But this was such a grown-up way of telling the world, enough of your crap. Enough. This is how we could find a solution to our problems.
Well, I think this was also very telling. I mean, yeah, it's the cynic in me that kind of agrees with you as well. But the hopeful part of me is the same one where when the doctor tells Kate, it's like, well, it worked the other 14 times. That she'd come down and tried to open the Osgood box 14 other times and had her memory erased when faced with this impossible choice. Well, not an impossible choice. I mean, you have a 50-50 shot, and either way, you could do it because, as he points out, you fire that first shot, no matter how justified you think you are. You don't know who's going to die, whose children are going to be killed. And it's just that whole speech is possibly the best thing I have heard in all of Doctor Who.
I agree.
Possibly the best thing I've heard in like sci-fi in like the last decade. I mean, there's like pieces of Battlestar Galactica that get really close.
Right.
And I'd have to go back and watch BSG again to maybe really, really say that. But it's awesome. I mean, I said from the very beginning, Capaldi's got that fifth gear that he can just throw it into. And I don't feel like we've really seen that until here. And it's like, oh, Peter Capaldi finally decided to show up. He's done dinking around with his electric guitar. And as much fun as that is, it's like Capaldi finally showed up. And it was just awesome. It reminds me of like some of the episodes of The West Wing where the real Martin Sheen really shows up. And it's just an amazing thing to behold when an actor and their craft meet.
Right.
Really excellent dialogue and they just hit it out of the park.
Well, you're so right. There was a couple of episodes in BSG where, you know, Captain Adama was doing his speeches, the "So Say We All" stuff that you got, you know, you got real excited. It got under your skin, you know, and you felt like you were there. You felt so much emotion. West Wing, where he is talking to, what is it, Jesus? I think it's a cross, and he's questioning everything, and
Oh,
he's gonna smoke a cigarette. He's had it, like he's frustrated with his own faith and how and nothing's working, and how he puts so much into his faith and he's not seeing anything from it, and he's starting to heavily doubt. That was so personal. It felt like we're looking into his soul, not as an actor, but as a person. Like he allowed us this view into his soul. I felt the same way with Capaldi. It felt like, honestly, like he channeled all the other doctors, all the pain each
yeah.
one of them felt, and it finally came out. And he's like, "I've had it with this. You have no idea what I've had to do, what I've seen, what I'm responsible for, and I don't want it anymore. I want it to stop." And that it starts with those two. And it
And
was so palpable.
yeah, and that was what I kept going back on, is like he really synthesized the previous three doctors, especially, and how they've dealt with this pain of what they went through. And you know, I kind of faulted Matt Smith for like sometimes seeming a little bit unhinged, where
Right.
he was getting way too angry, and it's like, whoa, 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 hold back. Um, it was like Matt Smith is like a wildfire raging out of control, and like Capaldi had harnessed all of that energy, and he was a rocket booster. It was like honed, and it was directed, and it was focused, and it was just like, wow. And the same intensity, but he took it there. Where what it really reminded me of, though, a lot was Eccleston, and how, you know, Eccleston was still processing all of this stuff, and he was trying to figure out how to deal with all of these emotions that were still so raw, and they came out in unpredictable ways. And it makes me sad that we didn't get to see the grown-up Doctor Who with Christopher Eccleston. That instead, Russell T Davies wanted to make a show where Rose Tyler was the Doctor's girlfriend,
Yeah.
and so they parted ways over, you know, creative differences, which is fine. Like, I'm not faulting Rose, and I'm not faulting that storyline.
But
And
Eccleston was right.
yeah, but Eccleston wanted to skip over all of that and get to where Capaldi is now, and that's what he was coming for. But he never had the ability to get to it. Um, but yeah, I mean, having seen the Eccleston episodes really colored what all of this was for me, and I was just super impressed by all of it.
Right. Yeah. This is by far my favorite episode of the season, and it's actually one of the best episodes I've seen in Doctor Who in the past, what, 3 seasons. It
Yeah.
was so good. It was very good and extremely topical in terms of our world events. That one scene where the guy who was losing the ability to stay cloaked as a human, and he kept
Oh,
saying, "I just want to live here. This is my home. That's all I want." This is how we treat Muslims, man. Uh, you know,
how this is how we treat Mexicans.
this is how we treat Mexicans. Yeah, exactly. But I guess I'm still on the whole terrorist theme,
Yeah,
where we just make assumptions and we want them gone, where all they want to do is just live in peace, live
yep,
a life. This is what Mexican immigrants want. They want to work somewhere and bring money home for their kids. They want to put a roof over their kids' heads. They want to make sure their kids are going to be okay. Muslims in any given country just they want to get away from the madness that we help create in their homes, and they just want to live. They don't want to be singled out or looked at in a certain way, or to have people make assumptions of them. They just want the same thing you and I want, to live. They want this to be their home.
And very topical when we have this, Syrian refugee crisis going on, and and no one knows what to do. The answer is really simple. We find a way to take care of these people. And what was it? Benedict Cumberbatch, after the curtain call for Hamlet, he like gets up and gives these impassioned speeches about what people need to do with the Syrian refugee crisis, and he's going after the Cameron government and for everything that they're not doing. And he's like, you don't put a child on a boat unless the water is safer than the shore, and you don't leave your village unless everyone is leaving and your home is destroyed. So it's like we don't understand that. We don't understand what that total devastation is. And if we had that empathy and that ability to, just reach out to people and say, yes, you know what, we can make a space for you. I think that's the hopeful part of me that says we can do these things. We have it within ourselves to make those correct decisions. But it's all too easy to choose the bad consequences. And
because we can be selfish.
Yep.
We refuse to see things like as simple as they just want to be safe. We immediately see they just want to have what I have. They just want to take my toys, and I don't want to share. Where we die and we don't take it with us, man. Yeah. And it's not impossible to create space for these people, even if it's temporary, because they don't want to live here. They don't want to live in Europe, but they want to live. They want to be where they were born. They want to be in their homeland, but they don't want to be there and survive bombardment after bombardment. When you have all these governments just making a mess of your homeland without any consequence at all. And I mean, why can't we just at least open our hearts and just see that? Like, it's, and this is what this episode did to me. It really did, because I'm a cynic, and I hate what I see on the news, and it makes me feel like this is the kind of stuff that I stay up late at night thinking about. Why can't we just see the simple solutions out there? And this episode really brought it to the forefront. And I really hope people who see this at least start thinking about that. At the very least, just start a conversation about this. Like, we have to tackle these things differently than what we have been these past few decades, because we haven't found the answer with war. Haven't. And the answer is not going to be there. So we'll see what happens. I want to be hopeful. I want my cynicism to die, but this is me.
I think that there is a profound message in here as well about forgiveness, and the fact that the doctor was telling Bonnie, it's like, guess what? I forgive you. I forgive you. I mean, it's like that Goodwill Hunting moment.
Right.
But
not your fault.
She also had to learn to forgive herself, and that was the most important thing. It's like, yeah, you know what? There comes a time when all of us, we are justified in being angry and being indignant at our circumstances because we've been given a raw deal. Well, it takes the bigger person to be able to say, yes, and I'm going to make the unselfish decision to try and preserve what it is that we have. That sucks. I mean, that's happened to me in like just so many times, and it's like, why do I always have to be the bigger person? It sucks doing it, but it is a better path, and it's not always fun, and you kind of have to eat a lot of crap to be able to do it, but it is better.
I've been on both ends. I've been the bigger person, and I've been the petty SOB. I'll admit that. And it's a lot easier to be the petty SOB because, like you said, it really sucks to be the bigger person and just let things go and say, you know what, it was what it was. Let's move on. It sucks, especially when the other person just refuses to acknowledge their part in this.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found that when you are the bigger person and you let things go, that there's this weight that just comes off your shoulders, and you walk forward, and you don't have to think about this anymore. Whereas when I've been the petty person and I've had the attitude like, I ain't gonna bend until that person does. Screw that person. That's all I'm thinking about. That person, that situation is on my mind all the time, and it makes me cranky and it makes me hate everybody. So there is something to say about just, take the blow. It'll pass, and it will pass, and you'll feel better.
It's some light side, dark side kind of stuff.
Right.
It's like the quick and easy route, or the harder but better path overall, and the stronger path overall.
It's more
So
worthwhile. Yeah. In the end.
yeah, in the end, because you can keep hanging on to your hate and your and whatever, but at the end of the day, if that's all you have, then or you can let it go and move on to better things. And just quickly, we'll give 2 seconds to Star Wars. Have you seen the international trailer and the TV spot? And
Yeah. Yes. Yes. The TV spot. Whose voice is that?
that's Lupita Nyong'o. And she's
Really?
playing, yeah, I totally recognize her voice. That's totally who that
Huh.
is. And so what's her character name? Mas Aveda, something like that.
What
Um,
is she?
she's a space pirate of some sort.
Hmm.
So as I understand it, she's kind of like the Jabba the Hutt of Jakku. Like she's the big crime lord or whatever. And and she kind of she either like helps smuggle them off planet, or helps get them to
Okay.
Han and Chewie, or something. She's involved in it, something like that. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
That's what I think. I've heard and I've picked up. Um, I don't know if that's her palace that they end up at
They're
with
walking
like
in.
all the flags.
Right, right. That's
Um,
that's what I was thinking.
yeah,
Huh.
but she has some sort of pirate palace that they go to at some point. But that whole thing where she's like, those eyes, I've seen
Right.
those eyes before, and I'm like, and then they cut from Ray right to Harrison Ford, Han Solo. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
they saying?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. She looks a little too much like Leia.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
Maybe. Or maybe Han had a dalliance in some planet and little Ray came about. I don't
But
know,
then,
man.
but then she wouldn't be force sensitive.
Well,
So,
that's true. That's true. So it has to be
although
Leia.
Han Solo didn't have to be force sensitive to be pretty badass. So, yeah, maybe
Maybe
she
she's
is.
just a badass. Yeah.
Maybe she is. Maybe she's just a badass. Maybe she's, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like that's been a question. Like, are Han and Leia still together? Like that's been a
That one quick scene where they're holding each other, that look on Leia's face, like it looks like it's been such a long time. God, it got so many questions, and I can't wait
I
to
know.
have them
Oh
answered.
my gosh, we're only oh, we're getting down into the
40 days, 40 more days.
days. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be less than a month soon. Oh oh I'm so
You know,
excited.
and I'm forcing myself to go watch other movies just to keep my mind occupied. Like I really don't care how Mocking Jay ends. I'm just gonna be there because I need my mind occupied on something else. Because I'm literally going crazy. I need to see this movie. I need to see episode 7.
Yeah, no, that was um we had some friends in town for Austin Comic Con last week, and uh, he's a film critic in Salt Lake, and so I'm like, this is my methadone for the next like 6 weeks. And I just like named off every single movie, and so all I have to do is like, okay, I've got Spectre next week, and then like 2-3 weeks after that, I've got Mockingjay, and I've got and then I went through like the release list, and I'm like, this is what's gonna keep me through.
Right.
If I just do it 1 week at a time, one movie at a time, we'll get there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Speaking of Spectre, should we take a break? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, before we do that, some Moffat news. He did say clearly that we're going to have a full season next season. That all the rumors were a bunch of crap. Capaldi is coming back, and that Clara is most definitely gone forever. Will not return.
Will not return. Wow.
Not return. So, I don't know. And then we're getting River back, so I don't know what to think. Does she sacrifice herself to bring River? Does she get to have Danny Pink in that digital world where River's stuck in, and she gets to live with Danny Pink? And that's why she's not coming back, because she's in a computer world. I don't know. It boggles the mind. I've been wrong about a lot of things this season with Doctor Who, so I'm gonna roll with it. But at least we know we're getting a full season next season, and Capaldi is coming back. I don't want to lose Capaldi. I don't, because I really started to like him, and this past episode really cemented it for me. Like, I want him to stay. I don't need to be entertaining the idea of anybody else taking his place right now.
Well, you don't need to. He's just starting to really hit his groove.
Right.
And this entire season has been just, it very layered and very different. And every couple of episodes, he's bringing something new to the table. The rock star entrance on the tank, and while he's dealing with Missy, versus how he's dealing with a shielder and all of that, versus what he's doing with the Zygons. It's just so much cool. We're gonna get into one-off episodes next before we get to the two-part season finale. So we're gonna get 2 single standalone episodes. I don't know, like if I had to predict that there's going to be a stinker episode, it might be this one coming up, because it seems very Doctor Who formula. It's like, oh, there's an abandoned space station. We got to go find out what's on the abandoned space station. So
yeah,
it could be really lame, or it could be really cool. I don't know.
It's going to be a definite change of pace, because I think we need it. But I just hope it's good. We also have a shielder coming back. We don't know exactly when, but she is coming back. And that's before the season's over. So we'll keep an eye on that.
I'm betting Christmas. I'm betting that'll.
I think it's Christmas. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it'll be the Christmas episode that she comes back. I think there will be a greatest hits moment to wave Jenna Coleman off into the sunset.
Oh man, I don't even want to think about who the next companion is going to be. Like, I'm finally hitting a stride where I'm not even thinking about the pawns, and we're going to lose Clara.
For 2 seconds, I thought it was going to be Osgood. And
as much as I would like to see her as a companion, I prefer her not to be. I like where she's at right now.
Yeah,
and that we could visit her every once in a while. And and plus, she was the human Osgood.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, because that's what I'm getting.
Well, because otherwise, then
they wouldn't be able to make a copy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we agreed.
Yeah, and there wouldn't have been any reason to, we have 2 Zygon Osgoods. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Right. Then there's no weirdness. So yeah, that's what I got. But I love that purity where to the end she was like, it doesn't matter, I'm Osgood, and it doesn't matter whether I'm Osgood the human or Osgood the Zygon. And I liked that they brought Bonnie in to fill that role, because now she gets it.
She gets it, yeah. So
and that's really cool.
What we need in the Dead Sea is one Israeli and one Palestinian with empty boxes. Maybe we can get world peace that way.
I think it's got to be something like that, where it's like the mutually assured destruction of Jerusalem, because that's what everybody's fighting over.
Right.
Because it's everybody's holy city. Which is why I think like we need one of two options. Either Thunderdome, everybody who cares about this goes out to the Sinai Peninsula, we wall off a 10-mile by 10-mile space.
Sweet.
Everybody goes in. You're not allowed artillery, anything like that. Small arms only. Machine guns, fine, but only guns and bullets. Nothing with explosives. Last person standing, you get to be the king of Jerusalem, and that's it, and it's yours. And everyone else says, okay, that's fine. And everybody who isn't okay with that, like, then they can go and fight in the Thunderdome if they care about it. But everyone left behind is going to be like, oh, I don't have any problem with like a Muslim being in charge of Jerusalem, or I don't have a problem with a Jew being in charge of Jerusalem. That's cool. And everybody who does care, they're all going to be dead except for one a-hole.
That's what's gonna.
And then we just assassinate that person. Or I think they should put like someone like Joel Osteen in charge of Jerusalem.
Oh Jesus!
And here's why. Yeah, literally. Oh Jesus! And here's why. Turn it into like a really tacky theme park.
Oh God!
And then no one can care about it.
I think there's actually a really easy solution that it can happen right now. Declare Jerusalem, all of Jerusalem, a UNESCO zone, and have the UN establish a governor chosen by the UN Council that leaves every 4 years. We'll have a brand new governor every 4 years, a UN governor. That way it's not owned by Jews, it's not owned by Muslims. No Palestinian or Israelis ever going to own that zone. It belongs to the world.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I mean. I'm being flippant and saying, like, let's put Joel Osteen in charge of it. But I don't really mean that. I mean, you get a neutral third party who actually cares about and respects everyone and will treat everyone with equality, because that's the real problem. Because, and that's what this comes down to, which is the point of this episode, where if people can't just recognize the humanity in the people that are their supposed enemies, then we can't come to an end of this conflict. If you can't respect someone's right to be self-determining of their own future, if you can't say, oh yes, it's fine if you cross this imaginary line in the sand and come into quote unquote my city, like that would be fine. But Israelis don't want Palestinians voting in their elections, and Palestinians don't want Jewish Israelis involved with their government. And so as long as they're separated and they can't like learn to be, for lack of a better term, pluralistic and figure out how to get along, then they're screwed. It's the exact same problem we have in American politics. Right. Like we just, everybody needs to learn to like calm down a little bit, and it's okay. It's okay. It's like people voted that they wanted health care. So we're going to get some health care. Let's move on and let's talk about the next thing that we all want to do. Maybe it's tax reform. Great. Hey, Republicans, go bang on that drum, get elected and say, hey, now the people want tax reform. Great. Then you're going to get tax reform. Cool. We're all going to go along with it. But like, if we can all stop fighting so much, like some of your Facebook friends, Mark, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's the real lesson. And there's been stuff going on. I mean, not in my life, but in like current events that surround my life, where this week I just had to unplug, and it's like, I can't deal with this. Yes, it's a horrible injustice. Yes, I'm mad about it, but I just can't deal with it, and I can't do anything about it. So I'm not going to chime in one way or the other, and I'm just going to walk away. And that was kind of the right thing to do. And so it was great to see a Doctor Who episode that was like, yeah, that's what you have to do.
Right. It validates a lot of things that I truly believe. Yeah, watching this episode and the Doctor's speech when they're in the Dark Archives, the whole just talk. Like, I somehow think that at some point John Kerry was in the Middle East somewhere yelling at people, just talk, because I probably would. And there's that Guns N' Roses song that opens up with Paul Newman's movie quote where he says, what we have here, Civil War, the song Civil War, he said, what we have here is failure to communicate. And that's yes, that's it. It's as simple as that. It's always a group of people not willing to listen to the other group who previously established a position that they weren't going to listen to the other group. And if people would just shut the hell up, sit down, and just talk to each other, not over each other, we would get so much done in our domestic politics and world events between countries. If we would just freaking talk, man, that's all it takes. Maybe share a doob, but talk.
Yep. Some men you just can't reach.
Some men you just can't reach.
You get what we had here last week, which is the way he wants it. Well, he gets it. I don't
like it any more than you may. I love that song, and I love that movie.
Yeah, Cool Hand Luke. That is great movie. Yeah, great movie. Speaking of movies, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about Spectre, because, oh my gosh, we have so much to say. Talk about Spectre, and we're going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen Spectre yet, you can listen to like the first 10 minutes, and then we're just going to go whole hog on spoilers on this. I know. So, okay, great. That was fun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
we went all over the place, but I think we hammered it home pretty hard, like how we felt about that episode. Oh, it's so deep. I love it. All right. Yeah. Do you need anything?
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, I already took my bathroom break before, so. Cool. Alrighty, let's get back to it. Oh my gosh, Spectre. So, I mean, you expressed disappointment at a lot of people who were just crapping on it.
Right.
I can see how this movie might feel a little baffling to some audiences, and it might feel, well, the only thing that it feels like to me is a little bit formulaic. It feels like they kind of wrote the script like Mad Libs. It's like, hey, we need an action sequence here, so let's throw in a car chase. Well, but it was a cool car chase, so it's okay. But you know what? That's kind of the Bond formula.
Yeah, you can't have a Bond flick without a car chase. You can't.
Well, you can, but
or a boat chase. But a boat chase is a car chase.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we've had in 2 movies already with Daniel Craig.
So yeah. So there's although the best description that I think is both loving and critical at the same time is what Brian Young said, is that this was on Her Majesty's Secret Service, but that it pulled all of its punches.
I disagree. I think that's coming
Really?
up. I think that's coming up. I think this was a perfect way to square up everything that we've seen before since Casino Royale, tie it up, and move on. We're no longer going to be dealing with the mysteries of James's past. It's done. It's over. The whole thing about being an orphan and all, we're done. We're moving on. We're moving on. We know that there is an organization. We know it's extremely powerful, that there's tentacles in every government, and they almost succeeded in taking over all the world governments. And we know that you know who is going to make a comeback because he has to.
Totally.
Yeah. And I love how this was an origin movie, even though you and I knew it was going to be, because hacker nerds ruined it for us.
Well,
but we would have figured it out anyway, because as you were saying previously, there was quite a few winks to the audience, especially for us Bond fans.
yeah.
But I think it was very well done. Very, very, very well done.
I mean, from the very first shot that you see, and it's in the trailers of Christoph Waltz playing Oberhauser, it looks exactly like shots from Russia with Love.
Right.
And if you knew who that, I mean, at that time they were like, oh, that they were calling him number one because he was number one in the SPECTRE organization, and then he eventually got a name, I think in Thunderball. But the whole point of that was, you know, that this was, I mean, it felt like an homage, but it felt like this wasn't really a mystery. Also, the fact that when Waltz was originally announced in the cast, like in Variety and everything, it said who he was playing. So somebody screwed up, and then
Right.
they tried to cover it up real quickly. And so Waltz was like, "Oh, no. My character's name is Franz Oberhauser."
Yeah, nah.
And like, okay,
we learned our lesson with Star Trek, so don't even start that crap with me.
you think we're dumb, but yes, but it was A, the Sony leak, B, the press when he was actually cast, and it would have been more interesting if that had been a secret, but the fact that it wasn't, I just enjoyed the movie all that much more. And about 20-30 minutes into it, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get what this is. This is that beautiful homage to all of the other Bond movies. I mean, they are stealing right from out of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, from Russia with Love specifically, and a couple of the Moore and a couple of the Dalton, well, just Living Daylights mostly.
Right.
But there was a lot in there that they were, I mean, it was almost like they were winking at the audience a little bit, but it was fine. But I think that it was like, it's the kind of stuff that most people like will just gloss over and wouldn't even notice. Like, well, hey, what's that white cat doing there?
Right.
Like, what's that?
Why the white cat? Why did the camera move to the white cat? What's up with that?
Yeah, what's going on with that? What's, you know, why is this layer in the middle of a hollowed out crater? I mean, instead of a hollowed out volcano, like you only live twice. It's like there are just so many loving little homages to previous Bond stuff, and so I liked it, and I kind of liken it to Casino Royale and Skyfall being a musical artist who gets access to the Beatles catalog and makes two really awesome albums of like remixes and taking samples and just riffing off of things that they did, re-recording some of their songs, and putting out two really amazing albums. And that was that sound like today's music as well. And that was Casino Royale, and that was Skyfall. This felt like they went back again to that archive and started pulling out the really, really, really deep tracks that only like true hardcore fans remember. And so it's a little bit off-putting, but at the same time, it's like, depending on what they're choosing to pay homage to, it's either like, oh, this is brilliant, or like, yeah, I didn't really like that thing in the first place. I wish they would have just left that alone.
I really like how they handle the homages. Was it Bautista playing Hinks was a little bit of what's his name? I keep thinking Random Task.
Odd Job.
Odd Job and Jaws, because of the people who aren't really fans of the James Bond movies don't really get the significance of the metal in his thumbs, and it's basically a blend of Jaws and Odd Job, which was freaking cool to me. To me, it was like, this is really awesome. And he wasn't just brain dead dude. Like he kind of had a purpose. He was a henchman, but still, I mean, it was a bit of an upgrade, but it was the perfect homage. The fact that we saw an origin movie of a major character and we really didn't blink, it kind of caught us not off guard, but it was snuck in there, was pretty freaking cool. Because all throughout the movie, I was expecting, okay, when does he become Blofeld? When does he become how does he become Blofeld? And then I don't care anymore. And then, oh, that's okay. That makes sense. And then his face gets blown up, and you're like, oh crap, Blofeld. It worked out.
Yeah,
I was pretty happy. The criticism that I was referring to is that I've read a lot of people saying that it was the dullest James Bond they've seen, and I don't understand. Like, there was plenty of action, plenty of intrigue. Mr. White came back, and he was integral to the story. Not only him, but his daughter, and the possible setup we're going to have for the next movie. I thought it worked out perfectly well. It really, and outsmarting C, and how C knew he was getting into bed with somebody who was evil, but was attempting to use that for the greater good in some warped way. It all worked out so very well. Not only was James in trouble, but so was M, and they were fighting not only Blofeld and Spectre, but the government. What more could we have wanted? I've said it before, Skyfall is really up there. To me, it's probably the best Bond movie. So anything following it up was going to be not as good. But what we got was great. Really, really good.
Yeah, I don't fault this movie for anything. For people to say that this was boring, I'm like, you had a really cool car chase. You had Bond flying a plane down a mountain trying to take out like that group of cars. I mean, and you had that, oh my gosh, the opening shot in Mexico City.
Yes.
Like, that was just phenomenal. It's like Mendes saw Birdman and he's like, oh, no cuts, huh? I think I could do something like that.
I'm gonna one up you guys.
and he just it builds so much tension as and you don't even notice it because we're so programmed to expect cuts, and when they don't happen, it's like, what are they waiting for? What are they waiting for? Oh my gosh, what are they waiting for? What's gonna happen? Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And it's like, as it kept developing, I'm like, cut. Like, you gotta release some of this tension. I don't know what's going on. Like, So, oh, it was so good. It was too bad that that was the very beginning of the movie, and then that helicopter stunt. I didn't know helicopters could go upside down.
Right.
Shows me what I
That
know.
was pretty
That
cool.
was awesome.
That was
So
pretty cool.
and
Yeah, and then you don't know exactly like what the hell was he doing there, and he's keeping it a secret from M, and then we find out that the previous M is the one who told him to do so, and then we're like, why? What's happening now? So it sucks you in. So anybody
yep,
says that this is boring and dull, like what were you watching? Like
yeah.
what else did you want?
You know what it is though, and this is again the comparisons to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. People totally dismiss that movie, and I think it's one of the best ones out there.
Yes, I
And
agree.
and it also has a very similar structure. It has a lot. I mean, they really did steal a lot of this from there, from Blofeld's hidden identity to being up in the mountains in that mountain resort that's disguised as a, a healing center or
Right.
whatever. Just very, very directly that they were playing to that, and the fact that they gave Bond someone who is, rather than just being a floozy Bond girl, who is an equal. That's also directly out of that, and um, so I people really diss that movie, and I think it's for the same reasons that they're disliking Spectre. Now that being said, I do feel like Mendez, like, after that first 15 minutes of the movie, he was just like, okay, well, I did the big thing. I did the really cool thing. I'm just gonna shoot the rest of this movie kind of normal. And it's like, and it's not that it was bad. It's cool to see action sequences that aren't full of shaky cam, and we can actually like tell what's going on. Um, and so he did really fine with that. But that first like 15 minutes was full of so much artistry, and then I felt like, yeah, I did it, you guys. I don't need to keep doing it. So that's a complaint that I have, but it's not like a oh my gosh, this is a bad movie. It's just it's not as amazing as some of the other things.
I think this was done. Obviously, it was done on purpose, but I think he needed to find a way to keep everybody involved after Skyfall to open up in a way that was going to suck you in and keep you in, and then tell you, okay, now the story begins. Right? I gave you candy. Now the story begins. Now bear with me. We're going to walk a little bit, and then we're going to run, which is exactly what happened.
It's true.
Um, who would have thought that Bond was going to give White a gun?
Oh my gosh,
I mean, at
that's a
that point, it was like, "What are you doing, dude? That's stupid." But we get to see how Bond works. I mean, anybody else would have glossed over it. Any other director would have probably kept James Bond with a gun to White's face, and what would have been the point to that?
yep.
So we get to see the inner workings of Bond as a person, not just some brain dead assassin who
Yeah,
just lusts over women.
not only that, but I mean, this has been a thread throughout all of these movies. Is the whole thing? It's like, oh, it's less of a random killing machine and more of a personal statement.
Right.
Sometimes someone needs to be there to pull the trigger, and there's the difference between a drone and a double O agent is knowing when to pull the trigger and knowing when not to.
Right.
And there are all of these themes, and it's like they keep referring to him as an assassin through all of this movie. And it's like, yeah, but he's not really just an assassin. Um, M refers to him in Casino Royale as a blunt instrument. And I love that description of this new Bond, who's not the gentleman spy. He is kind of rough around the edges, but he still has that instinct and at least a little bit of conscience that
Yes.
keeps him, that says like, no, I'm not going to kill this person because it's not personal. It is for Queen and country.
Right. And we get to see that he, regardless of what you see in action sequences and how he takes action, taking people out, he does still have a sense of humanity in him. When Blofeld is about to show Madeline Swan how her father, took himself out of this world, James is screaming, "Don't show her this! Don't show her this!" And he starts screaming at her, "Look at me! Look at me!" That's his humanity. And this is something Sam Mendes did. Well, I mean, Daniel Craig performed it, but Sam Mendes was able to cultivate this from Daniel Craig and made James Bond three-dimensional instead of just a cold-blooded assassin, which is what a lot of people, I guess that's what a lot of people want. They just want boom, boom, bang, bang, and they hate exposition. Maybe that's why they thought this was so dull, but this was James Bond being fleshed out before us. It was fantastic. I don't know how anybody could complain about that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, it's why, I mean, people forget On Her Majesty's Secret Service and that last scene. I mean, and how heartbreaking that is. It's less likely at this point than people will have seen On Her Majesty's Secret Service than will have seen Spectre. So I'm not going to spoil that ending. Go watch that movie, everybody.
Do yourself a favor.
Yeah. I'm not gonna spoil that ending, but that ending is just so emotional, and
it's coming.
But it's a slow burn, that whole movie. And I mean, that movie has some action sequences in it, but it's like it's skiing is the big like chase sequence, and so and a bobsled ride.
Right.
It's a little bit more understated, and people like who just want, like you said, Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang instead of a human being.
Right.
Which I think is more about like brain dead action movie audiences. So like that's kind of where I come down on this, is I kind of feel like I personally loved the movie as someone who really pays attention to Bond and cares about Bond, and picked up on all of those breadcrumbs. I think general audiences might look at this and be a little more baffled.
Yeah, if all they were expecting was just an action thriller with explosions happening every few minutes,
Yep.
Then yeah, they would be disappointed. But you're the kind of person I probably wouldn't want to watch a movie with anyway. So I really don't care if you thought it was dull because you didn't get Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. So yeah, screw you, dude. But if you're the kind of person who likes seeing a character being fleshed out and enjoys narrative, then this movie's for you, especially if you're a Bond fan.
Yeah. The other thing that really this reminded me of a lot is Stephen Moffat. I mean, he didn't go killing off our favorite characters left and right, but they did pick up all of those breadcrumbs that they've been leaving, and they tied them up all really, really nicely. I think there were some places they could have done that a little bit more artfully, but I'm not going to complain because I was happy with the final product.
Right. The only criticism I have is the end sequence, because I remember as a kid when I was watching the finale of Miami Vice, even as a kid, I was like, really, this is really stupid. What Crockett shoots down a helicopter with a 9mm. I immediately felt that way when James Bond takes out Blofeld's helicopter with a handgun. I was like, oh, really? Like, that's the only criticism I have. Any real criticism, I don't. You have to have a suspension of disbelief to think that a handgun can bring a helicopter down. It really doesn't make sense to me.
Well, but he did miss like 5 times before.
Yeah, but you're on a boat you're on a freaking boat. Have you ever been on a boat going like 60 miles an hour? It's choppy as hell, so you can't
Yep.
aim for crap. And plus the helicopter is like how many feet up in the air? Like
Yeah,
just
like at least 150, 200
yeah,
feet.
but it is a movie, so fine. I was able to forgive it, especially at the end when Blofeld is looking at Daniel Craig walk away with Madeline holding her hand, and he's looking at them like, "I will kill you." And
Yep.
we know. Well, you and I know based on another movie, another Bond movie, and I think this is where we might be headed. I think the next movie is going to be all about Blofeld's revenge, and how. And he said it before in the movie. He is the architect of James Bond's pain,
Yep.
and I don't think his work is done yet. I know his work is not done yet. So I want to see how they're going to set this up, because I'm pretty sure they're setting this up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that was, I guess that is a little bit of a complaint from me, is that Skyfall and Casino Royale both felt very, um, very purposeful. And there's some of this that felt like we're moving the franchise along because we want to. We finally got this toy out of the toy box, and now we have to set it up so that we can play with him some more, which is fine. I mean, I, yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, they've been waiting 20 some odd years to be able to play with Blofeld again,
Right.
due to the crazy rights situation with that
I,
whole story.
you think maybe this is Bond 2.0 and this was course correction, knowing that they screwed up letting George Lazenby go, and they wanted to make sure they did everything right this time? Like, I'm thinking Casino Royale was a hard reboot, and we're doing it right. And I'm pretty sure they're going to end Daniel Craig's run with his wife being murdered, and then we're going to see a whole new Bond take on a whole new persona based on those events. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. I don't know if you're necessarily seeing it that way.
It could be. They're certainly setting it up that way, and that's going to be heartbreaking. I mean, as much as Vesper's death really affected Bond, um, it this will destroy him,
Right.
and that's going to be very, very good. So yeah, I want to see that. I want to see that scene where he drops him down a chimney from what movie was that? That's one of the really late Roger, where he drops Blofeld down a chimney,
Uh,
and that's supposedly Blofeld's final death. Was
it's
is
not
that the
for you.
Walken one? I don't remember.
That's the walking one was View to Kill, right?
Yeah,
Was it?
I'm trying to.
Was
Uh,
it? Was it the last one with what's Roger Moore?
maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm googling it. Oh no, it's at the beginning of For Your Eyes Only.
Ah, okay. I
So
see.
only I was only one movie off.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Because you were talking View to Kill Octopussies before a View to Kill, and then it's For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, then View to Kill, and then we get the terrible Dalton movies. I'm sorry,
Oh
that were terrible.
no, 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 no. Living Daylights is great, and um, License to Kill is horse crap. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
like
was a
Living
bunch. Yeah, Living Daylights was. I think they went too dark with Bond, way too dark.
I like Dark Bond.
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna get Dark Bond after the next series of events with a whole new Bond.
Yeah,
But I hope they just do it right, because I think they went way too dark. Like,
I think
it was more special ops than spy. And that was my problem with it.
that's true. He was, but it was also more of a maybe more of a commentary on like where we were in like 1985.
This is true. Yeah,
And
this is true.
what,
But if I
what,
want special ops, I got Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and
I
Rambo.
guess
Yeah.
Guess that's true. Well, now we got Daniel Craig. I don't know. He seems like he could do some special
You
ops.
can. You really can. But like I said, they're doing it right. I mean, they're fleshing out the character. So there's a lot of leeway in terms of how dark they want to go. Because everything they've been doing, maybe with the exception of Quantum of Solace, has been very, very, very good. Skyfall being the best entry to date in the entire franchise, in my opinion.
So I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch Quantum of Solace because I've only seen it twice, and like the only thing that I got out of that was the introduction of Quantum, which is supposedly part of Spectre.
Right.
So, and like, let's be also very real here. The only reason it was called Quantum was because they did not own the rights to use the name Spectre, because
Right.
it was all caught up in that whole intellectual property rights thing. Which, for people who don't know, the guy who co-wrote Thunderball sued the James Bond people and said, hey, I created this character Blofeld and I created this organization Spectre. And they're like, no, you didn't, because those characters appeared in previous movies. Yeah, but I made the name for them. And so they belong to me. I own anything that says Blofeld or Spectre on it. And it went all the way through the court system. The final ruling was, you do not have rights to anything in the James Bond intellectual property except for Thunderball, and you can remake Thunderball as much as you want to. Which is how we got the Rogue Never Say Never Again, which was a remake of Thunderball, again, and bringing back Sean Connery during the Roger Moore era, which is an interesting movie. But they also kept the rights to the names of Spectre and Blofeld, which was why Roger Moore dumped him down a chimney in For Your Eyes Only. Because that was kind of like their big FU to all of the court cases.
We're done with Blofeld.
Yeah, so they finally reached a settlement a couple of years back, and they said, okay, owning Sony and Bond, so you can now use the name Blofeld and Spectre again if you want to. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bunch of nonsense.
What was that?
Yeah, that was a bunch of nonsense. And then there's a new current contract, well, non-contract with Sony. So now MGM has to make a new deal with Sony, or maybe we're going to get a whole new distributor. And I don't know how that's going to affect production, writing, whatever. So that's going to suck.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because I forgot. It wasn't Sony, sorry, it's MGM.
MGM,
and
right.
like MGM almost went bankrupt.
Right.
Like during, was it during the filming of Casino Royale?
Right before, yeah.
Right before. Correct. Yeah, so they almost went bankrupt, but yeah, Sony stepped in and was like, we'll help you finance these so that we can skim some of that Bond money off. So, but that's really the only thing that they've got going. I don't know. Are there any other MGM movies out there? I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Not that I can think of.
Bond's a pretty big franchise, though. They can probably keep them going.
They sold all of their properties with the exception of the Bond franchise. I don't know who they sold it to, because they held on to the Bond franchise and to United Artists. But I don't exactly remember how that went down. But the whole thing was that they were going to hold on to Bond no matter what, and good for them. But now they have to figure out a whole new deal with somebody else, or maybe a repeat with Sony. But I don't know what this is going to do to the production of the next movie, which is too soon to talk about anyway.
Yeah, but that'll be the 25th Bond. So. Yeah. That'll be, I don't know if they'll do It'll be interesting too. They have a lot of choices to come back. Do they back up a Brinks truck full of money to Daniel Craig and say, please, please, please do another one? Or do they recast someone?
No, you bring Daniel Craig and you finish the current storyline. It needs to end with him. It has to. Give him the money.
I think so.
And bring Stephen Moffat to write the script.
I don't know. Does Stephen Moffat like James Bond? I wonder.
Everyone will die.
Everyone dies. Yeah, totally. That's exactly what we.
Hugh, Madeline, everybody dies.
Yeah, everybody dies, and then they all restart, and like, okay, now we need a new. We need a new Q. We need a new M. We need a new 007 because everybody's dead, and those were all code names, and now we're gonna
speaking of M, I can't tell you how much I like Ray Fiennes as M. He's a badass. He gets things done, but every time he was on screen, my brain would just scream, "Harry Potter, the boy who lived, come to die." He's always gonna be Voldemort.
Totally, but he also really channeled a lot of the old M, the pre-Judi Dench M back in the Sean Connery era, and that was really cool when they did that whole thing, especially where they started with the like outside inside thing where he was the one going after M and MI6, and now suddenly he's the one in charge of it, and now he's got C who's after it and is trying to dismantle it, and he's like, oh no, you didn't. That was a very fun turn of events where, you know, he went from, in Skyfall, he went from kind of the villain to the hero in this one.
Well, he lends credibility to the role because I do buy that he was a special ops soldier in his past. And that meeting he had with Q and Moneypenny, I mean, there's so much about this movie that worked. So much. It's a very, very good movie. It's not Skyfall. It could never have been Skyfall, but it was very, very good. Us Bond fans should all be very happy with this movie.
Yeah, I'm really mad that I'm working in Ohio right now instead of finding a way to drag my wife to go see this because I want to go see it again. It's really good.
This is what I'm going to watch again at the theater. I have to.
Yeah, this SPECTRE will be part of my methadone treatment for Star Wars. Every time I really want to see Star Wars, I'll just be like, I'm gonna go see SPECTRE again. It'll be okay.
Dude, I've already asked for my days off because I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it on the 17th at night, but that's probably gonna finish around 2 a.m. And then the following day, I'm gonna take the family with my brother's family. So I asked for the 18th off. And my daughter's birthday because she wants me to take her to watch it on the IMAX screen.
Ooh.
So I can't, man. I just can't wait, man. I hate this waiting business.
That's gonna be great. Well, because the 18th when it comes out is a school holiday for the kids, but not for the teachers. So my kids are out of class, but my wife still has to work. So I have to take the day off anyway to watch the kids. And we're just going to go Star Wars at 10 in the morning.
Sweet.
They're just totally the way to do it too, because it's it'll be less crazy. They'll have a good time. If they're at all restless or whatever, it's a 10 in the morning Star Wars. It's not like I'm bringing them out at 8 o'clock to a opening night thing, and they're, if they're fussy or something, and I'm ruining someone's theater experience. I'm sorry, they're children.
But your wife's gonna miss out. She's gonna be at work.
Yeah, that's okay. She is interested, but she's not going crazy like we are.
Okay.
But then it'll be great because then we'll all come back and then we'll say, you need to go see this movie, and then we'll find a time yeah, we'll find a time Saturday or Sunday or any time in the next 2 weeks, because then they all have that off too. So
Right.
so that'll be perfect.
Oh, cool. Yeah, can't wait. Lots of good things coming our way, man. Lots of good things.
And we're gonna finish up Doctor Who and those weeks as well.
That's true. The
And
age of the nerd is a beautiful thing.
it is. We're so blessed. We're so lucky
Yeah.
to have all this stuff. It's so cool. But that about does it. Man, we talked a lot about all this stuff. We were joking about like the Google Hangouts can only go for like 8 hours. So we'd never be able to pull that up. We went way long on this, but that's okay. I hope everyone enjoyed this. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks the folks at Big Shiny Robot and Tom Winkley for hosting the podcast. And we will see you all next time.
Bye bye, everybody.
And that's over.